Sup, chooms? I want to wish you and your hair follicles all a very happy new year. I thought maybe some of you might be tired of watching football, so I decided to make a short video on a new pipeline treatment for treating hair loss as my first video of 2025. I hope you all find it informative. So, this new treatment was suggested to me by one of my viewers, and it's something called DLQ01, but I'll just go ahead and call it DLQ01 henceforth in order to keep it easy to pronounce. This treatment has been flying under the radar up until recently, hence why I hadn't heard of it, but back in 2022, an announcement was made that clinical trials were beginning on DLQ01. This study was a combined Phase 1 and Phase 2 study sponsored by the drug company that makes DLQ01 called Dermalique Therapeutics. So, despite this being the first time I'm covering this treatment, it is still pretty well into development. The goal of the study was to assess the safety, tolerability, and the hair growth response to topical DLQ01 in 120 men with androgenetic alopecia. The study was designed to look at different doses of DLQ01 and compare it to both a placebo and a 5% topical minoxidil. So that's great. Not only do we get a control group here, but we also have a comparison with an existing clinically approved treatment. So the results of the study have been announced, but before I get into that, let me tell you what DLQ01 actually is. DLQ01 is a prostaglandin F2 alpha analog. That means that it acts like the naturally occurring prostaglandin in the body called prostaglandin F2 alpha. So DLQ01 definitely isn't the first hair growth stimulant related to prostaglandin. Cetirizine, latanoprost, and bimatoprost are also based on prostaglandins, and I've made videos on these prostaglandin treatments that I'll link below. Now, while this table does show that these prostaglandin compounds can stimulate some hair growth, if you look at the table closely, you see that most of the research is on bimatoprost being used for eyebrows and eyelash growth, not for androgenetic alopecia. For latanoprost, there is only a single study using it in androgenetic alopecia, and that only included 16 men with mild androgenetic alopecia. Most of the research is on Cetirizine, which is an antihistamine drug, but a recent study comparing Cetirizine to 5% minoxidil, specifically this one here, showed much greater improvement in the minoxidil group than in the Cetirizine group. However, as we'll see, DLQ01 has some features that these other prostaglandin drugs don't have. So even though pretty much all of these prostaglandin modulating therapies have proven to be bunk so far, let's keep an open mind and see what may make DLQ01 different from these other prostaglandin therapies. It turns out that there are several different types of prostaglandins, and they have different effects on hair growth. For example, prostaglandin D2 causes the androgen growth phase to end by triggering the catagen phase, so prostaglandin D2 actually causes hair loss. On the other hand, prostaglandin E2 and prostaglandin F2 alpha both stimulate hair growth. It has been shown that changes in prostaglandin levels in the hair follicles are in fact a downstream effect of the trash hormone DHT in people who have androgenetic alopecia. Specifically, the negative growth factor prostaglandin D2 is increased in areas of balding scalp compared to non-balding scalp. At the same time, the positive growth factor prostaglandins E2 and F2 alpha are both decreased in areas of balding scalp. So DLQ01 is basically a synthetic prostaglandin F2 alpha drug which theoretically should be able to stimulate hair growth. However, the drug company that makes the drug, Dermalique Therapeutics, thinks that DLQ01 might work better than other prostaglandin drugs because of a proprietary drug delivery system called Hyleik. This system involves some kind of carrier molecule that transports the drug through the top layer of the skin, which is called the stratum corneum. This layer forms a barrier that can block the absorption of drugs through the skin. As you can see from this figure from the company's website, the Hyleik method is illustrated by a pretty impressive graphic, but since it's proprietary, there aren't many specific details about how it actually works. Anyways, according to a press release from Dermalique, the results from the Phase 1 and Phase 2 study were positive. Like I said, the study enrolled 120 men with androgenetic alopecia, and the study design was a randomized controlled double-blind study, so we're talking about a very good study design here, chums. The men in the study were between 18 and 60 years old and had Norwood grades ranging from 3 to 5. Topical DLQ01 was applied twice per day over a 6-month period. The drug was compared to placebo and also to 5% topical minoxidil. DLQ01 increased target area hair counts by 12.3% compared to baseline, which was was a statistically significant increase compared to the placebo group with a p-value of 0.008. The increase was even greater than what was seen with 5% topical minoxidil, which increased hair counts by 9.8%. However, the report doesn't say if this was a statistically significant difference in the hair growth from DLQ01 versus minoxidil. Overall, more than 80% of the men had a positive response to the drug. As far as safety goes, the drug was well tolerated with only some mild skin reactions. The study was conducted by Dr. Rodney Sinclair, who was quite enthusiastic about the results and who himself is a legend in dermatology. He says in the press release, quote, "It has been more than 20 years since the FDA-approved minoxidil 5% solution for male androgenetic alopecia. While effective in many men, there still remains a huge unmet need for a safe, effective, and easy-to-use topical treatment for androgenetic alopecia. The DLQ01 Phase 2 data is robust and very exciting. DLQ01 is potentially the first new topical treatment option for both men and women suffering from androgenetic alopecia in a very long time. The DLQ01 mode of action is novel. It involves modulation of the PEG2A receptor. Combined with a promising safety profile, DLQ01 could be just what our patients have been waiting for." Unquote. In addition, Dr. Betsy Hughes Formella, a co-founder of Dermaleaks, said, quote, "Alongside the favorable safety and tolerability observed for DLQ01 in this trial, we have identified a clear regulatory pathway to approval that we will now discuss further with the FDA." Unquote. So it sounds to me like this company wants to get the Phase 3 trial started as soon as possible with the hope that they can get full FDA approval within the next couple of years. And that's definitely not a long time if we think about how long it takes some of these treatments to actually hit the market. And let me tell you, chums, I think this is definitely a promising pipeline treatment. It treats the downstream effects of DHT, so it's probably not going to be a full-blown substitute for lowering DHT directly by using a 5-AR blocker like finasteride or dutasteride, but suppressing the downstream effects of DHT is definitely still a good adjunctive strategy for treating androgenetic alopecia. Also, it looks like this treatment is comparable or perhaps even better than 5% topical minoxidil, so it would offer an alternative to minoxidil for people who can't use minoxidil or want something better. Of course, it could also have additive effects to minoxidil too, so if you want to stack it with minoxidil, that's another potential strategy as well. So, starting off this year, I am definitely optimistic that some of the treatments in the pipeline are going to become available very soon and will have even more and even better weapons to fight the slaphead curse. So once again, Happy New Year and stay positive, chums. Science is definitely on our side, my fellow hair loss switchers, and it's waging the battle against the slaphead curse on many different fronts. So let's make 2025 an especially glorious year for our hair follicles. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. God bless.